Welcome to the Cosmic Cadence podcast. We are your hosts, Kate
and G. And this is the podcast where we decode the cosmic vibes of your favorite albums and the people that help bring them into the universe.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cosmic Cadence. Today is a very special edition of the podcast. A first for us, actually. We have an artist on for the very first time, and that artist is none other than Maddie Regent, joining us to talk to us about her upcoming album, which is called
On the Phone with My Mom,
out
May 16th.
Yes. So we're going to dive into a whole bunch of things like we usually do on this podcast, definitely going through the birth chart, but also getting to know Maddie a bit. And if you're not familiar with her, definitely get familiar. Maddie is a Toronto-born, New York-based artist who is cementing her place as one of indie pop's most compelling new voices.
And with that, we will bring on Maddie. So we are here today with Maddie Regent. Thank you so much for coming on our podcast. We have heard that you are an astrology fan. Is that
yes? Yes, I would say I would like to get into it even more. I would say that I definitely look at my co-star, if you know that, pretty much every day. So that's kind of where it lies right now, but I'm open to learning and I definitely believe in it for sure.
Love that.
So you have an album coming out very soon, May 16th, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely want to get into that. But first, we do want to learn a little bit more about you and kind of, your experience in the music industry thus far. So tell us how you got started and, how this album came about.
I started doing musical theater. I originally went to school in New York for that, and then I transferred into film and then somehow ended up into songwriting. So I guess I've always been interested in storytelling in some way, and I think it took a bit for me to find that confidence to not necessarily like hide behind a character or like a camera or something, and that was just through working with really cool people. I wrote like my first EP with some people in LA, and that was like a really cool learning experience for me, and that's where I have my song Ego, which is still probably my most well performing song, and I do love it a lot. And then I met my boyfriend like 4.5 years ago. We actually were like having a writing session, but it ended up being a date, I guess. And we wrote like a breakup song that never came to fruition. And then we started dating and then never wrote again together for 2 years. And then I was just going through some stuff and he was like, do you want to try? Because like he's also a writer and we never wanted to force it when we were together. So it just kind of happened naturally. And then I made my second EP, Girl of Your Dreams, with him in his like studio apartment. And that was like a really big eye-opening experience for me, working with someone that I knew and was very comfortable with. I felt like I was able to really experiment more. And then with this album, we just from the beginning were like, we're going to make an album together. We don't know what it's gonna be called, what's gonna be about, but every song was written with the idea that this was gonna like be part of one project. And that was really cool. And it was, we moved in together and we have this little home studio and we just would spend all of our free time writing and making the songs together. And I feel very lucky because I think he is a very talented musician and producer and also writer. And I love writing, but sometimes when it comes to like my really emotional moments, it can be hard for me to go there. So having him to kind of bounce off with was really helpful. And and then we just kind of went from there. And I think we're just going to keep making more stuff together. So that's kind of my journey, like with my projects and just, trying to get it out to as many people as possible, which can be difficult, but I think I am still really proud of what we've done independently. And it's kind of the overview.
I love that. It's funny how, we always say like the universe connects us all. And a friend of mine actually had sent me a song from this album, The Wolf, like only like a couple months ago. Isn't that so funny?
That's crazy.
Yeah. So we love your music.
Oh my God, thank you.
Natural cosmic timing.
Yeah.
Together.
The universe knows.
It really does. It is crazy. Yeah. I say that all the time.
So do we.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. But I love what you said too, because we've talked about it before as well of I feel like with writing music, granted, we are not quite as musically inclined on that. Like we work in the music business, but we're not,
Right.
well, you write a little bit of music, but
Yeah.
so I feel like it's about finding your people, like that's the most important part. So it sounds like you found a great writing partner, and it definitely shows in this album for sure.
Yes. I think it was the most perfect thing that could happen. I mean, when we started dating, like I was figuring out like who I was going to work with next. Like I do still like to work with all types of people because I think that that's where you find really cool, unique sounds and whatever. But he was even trying to help me. He was like, "What about this person? Like, you should work with." And then it just kind of happened naturally. We're like, "Why don't we just work together, like, and just see what happens?"
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't work. I mean, working with your significant other has its challenges too, and we've definitely like developed and figured out how to like do that, which is I'm lucky that it's still working and we don't hate each other, but it's definitely a process. But yeah, it was meant to be, and I feel really grateful.
And I was going to say too, I know you mentioned your kind of songwriting is really about storytelling, and that is the number one thing I get from your songs is like the way you have with words is just incredible. Like it really does feel to me like almost like diary entries, and
Mhm.
I love that about your writing. So
Thank you
It
so
creates
much.
like a visual too. Like
Thank
it
you.
almost plays out in a movie, like when I'm listening to your stuff.
I think, and thank you for saying that because for this, especially with this project, like that's what I wanted to lean into more. I love pop music and I love like the certain like way that you can like make pop songs, but with this, it's like still pop, but I definitely wanted it to be more like poetic and cinematic. My dream, because I am also still like a film nerd, is like to be able to make like a film to go with whatever project I have. And like that's definitely something I'm trying to figure out. So that's like been my goal with this project is I want it to be kind of like a start to finish like experience.
a number of times on this podcast, we've been like, we're going to say this out loud, we're going to manifest it. So
Yeah.
you said it, it's going to happen.
Yes, it's gonna happen.
I'm so
Good.
curious, you mentioned you have co-star and now hearing how you kind of operate, like you know your big three. I'm very
Yeah.
Okay.
hit us.
Yes.
Let me put on it for you. So remind me it's my sun.
Moon, and then either ascendant/rising. I forget how co-star labels it on the app.
Yeah, so my ascendant and my sun is Virgo,
Ooh, okay.
and my moon is Gemini.
Interesting. Okay, the Gemini makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
especially in talking about communication aspect,
Mhm.
the telling of it all. The double Virgo, like
Yes.
you struggle with perfectionism at all?
Yes. So that's the thing. It's like before I even got into astrology, being a Virgo girl, like that, like everyone's like, oh, you're a Virgo. Like it was all like growing up, like that's kind of like people like can pinpoint that as being, oh, you're a perfectionist, you're kind of type A or whatever. And that was just me growing up to a T. And definitely it's been interesting with CoStar because it's just an easy way to like lay out all the other aspects of you, and like the Gemini part really does make sense for me as well, like emotionally. But yeah, I'm definitely a Virgo through
It's so
and
funny.
through.
So we're both Scorpios, but we talk about this often. I think
Wow.
it has to do with other parts of my chart, but everyone always thinks I'm a Virgo. So I 100%
Interesting.
relate to you on that because I am so like
Yes.
perfectionistic and
Yeah.
like I have, my spreadsheets and, can be very type A. So it is funny, but
Mhm.
okay. So we also talk about though, Scorpio and Virgo, the sign, like the little
The symbol.
symbol for those signs are so similar.
Are very similar.
Because the Scorpio, you always say it has like the devil.
We have like the devil hooking
Yeah.
out, and then Virgo goes inward, and
Yeah.
they say we're like sister signs, where it's like we're two shades of the same color essentially. We
Hmm.
just operate differently throughout the world. But we are definitely signs that have a lot in common. Perfectionist
Yes.
to a certain aspect, where it's like Virgos work hard and will
Mhm.
continue striving for it until it's perfect. And I think Scorpios just out of spite will keep going.
Right.
It's a different thing driving us, but we're
Yes.
the same goal essentially.
Yes.
The Gemini
That's
aspect though is like so spot on, especially with the
Mhm.
music that you create and
yeah.
how you create that picture. But I'm curious, do you have the Mercury sign? And
Let me pull that up.
because that really speaks to communication.
Yeah.
Mercury, Libra.
That
Okay.
makes a lot of sense for me.
Yeah.
And I will say why, but well, I guess first I do want to say it was funny because when you were describing your songwriting process, you were talking about how the emotional moments can be a little hard for you, and that makes sense because it doesn't sound like you have much water in your at least big three.
Right.
The water would definitely be like connecting with the emotion, so the attachment makes
Yeah.
a bit of
Yes, I tend to be a very avoidant. Uh, I also am like an extreme people pleaser, so I can tend to like overlook like what I'm thinking just to make it like more palatable for other people. So that is also like the avoiding thing. So that makes a lot of sense for
Yeah.
me.
It's the
and
ground. You got a lot of ground
yeah.
energy. They tend to shy away from the emotion aspect. And then the Gemini of it all too, of like, I say this on almost every episode, I'm sorry, but the beautiful thing about Geminis is like they search for their twin in everyone. So the people
Mm,
pleasing of it makes so much sense.
wow.
Like you're trying to take pieces of you and find the match in someone else and give them like, oh, we have
Yes.
this in common. We can bond over this, you know? So your chart is making so much sense. It's
Wow.
amazing.
And even Libras actually,
Yeah.
like the fact that your Mercury is Libra. Libras are also known to be people pleasers. We both have Libra, and she is a Libra moon, and I'm a Libra rising.
Okay.
So definitely relate on that. But I was gonna say as well, like I feel like your music, Libras love love.
Mhm.
And that definitely was a theme that I found in your music.
Hmm.
You know, there's the ups and the downs, of course, but at the end of the day, it's like you want love to win.
100%.
So
Like I yeah, and I want to see like the best in people truly, even though like I can overthink sometimes.
funny enough,
So
I
yeah,
was just going to ask you if you overthink a lot because that's a Virgo trait and you got the double Virgo.
100%. 100%. Like it's just I do try really hard. I'm also like kind of ADD and it's just like I can be a little bit all over the place. So and also very, like I say it's like I'm at war with myself because I'm like I need things to be a certain way, but then also I struggle to like make those decisions. I'm like, oh no, but is this the right way? And then I just avoid. So we love it.
But honestly, even just talking to you though, you do have this very like I want to say like calming, grounded energy. So I think that comes through,
Definitely.
because we always
Thank
say
you.
too, like you can't judge someone just based off their sun sign, because
Right.
there's the other aspects of your chart. But you do have a very ground
Thank
heavy
you.
chart. So,
I appreciate that.
but speaking of the fact that you are a Virgo, you
Mhm.
have a single out called Miss Virgo. So tell us a
Indeed.
little bit about this single.
Well, so funny because Virgo like kind of came up just me being a Virgo, and I was like, I do want a song that like addresses it. And it's funny that it's this song, but um just like kind of a tangent, like the Virgo sign kind of looks like my initials in a way. So that was like what we were kind of like kind of looks like a little
Yeah.
I
M-ish,
can
like
see
like I don't know, like if I really think
that.
about it, I'm like, okay, cool. So but yeah, so this song, this song was a very like hard song to write. And I think as a small artist, when you're releasing music, like most of the time it's being heard by people that know you in person, kind of, or and hopefully I my dream is to connect with people that like relate to it, but a lot of the time it's like my family and friends. So this is like a difficult song to write because it's about an event in my past that like I was never super open about. And so um I called it Miss Virgo because it's kind of talking, yeah, like the maybe what I viewed as like the negative qualities of like the perfectionism, the rigidness, that kind of led to me having struggles with anxiety and overachieving and burnout that kind of led to me struggling with an eating disorder when I was like 16. And then I was able, I was luckily enough able to get help for that. I was in a treatment center during the summer before after my graduation, and that was like kind of like a blur of an experience just because of I was so young and I was for the first time surrounded by a lot of people from, you know, different walks of life, all kind of struggling with what, they were going through. And the so the song kind of started with I was telling my boyfriend a story of how the first time I watched Shutter Island was when I was in this facility because the nurses accidentally left it on the TV and they didn't realize. They were like, oh, this might not be the best like setting to be watching this
Yeah.
movie. And I was like, yeah, like I love that movie. I was like, yes. And so Cade, he was like, Miss Virgo's watching Leo because it was Leonardo DiCaprio. And so that kind of started the like the first line. And we kind of just went from there, kind of using that as a way to describe my experience growing up, or like coming in like in that moment of my life. Yeah. So that's kind of where the Virgo-ness came. And I think definitely I view it a lot differently than I did then. But in that moment, I really resented my perfectionism and like who I was at that time. But now I definitely am like, Virgos kind of get a bad rap sometimes, but definitely I know a lot of Virgos, I love a lot of Virgos, and I love those parts of myself. So yeah, it's kind of evolved, but that's kind of how that happened.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us.
Of
It
course.
definitely comes across, and in a different way, I can relate because for me, I have a Capricorn moon, also a ground sign, but it can be, Capricorn energy can also be a bit darker, and it was hard. We've talked about this in our host episode, but I like what you said. It really resonates of like coming to terms and really accepting that part of yourself because
Mhm.
I think sometimes like our flaws, we just have to learn to love them because they are part of us. And like, the ideal is obviously way easier said than done, but it's like we're perfect as we are. Like
Yeah,
we don't have to change. And
100%.
there's nothing wrong with that. So it really
Yeah.
in your song. And when I was listening to it, I mean, it's so like beautifully haunting in a way, like just the musicality of it. And I did want to say, like, when listening to it, what I really got was this sense of like almost like mental torment. So it
Yeah.
makes sense because, what we were already talking about, like they're going to be very perfectionistic, and, hard on themselves. And I feel like just very like I do have a lot of friends either that are Virgos or have Virgo in their chart, and I do know that they can be very critical of themselves, So I think that's
Mhm.
be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the other side of it too, just kind of looking into, because I saw the post you made about this song,
Yeah.
how you kind of spoke to the bonds that you formed in that place.
Hmm.
In a weird way, that was also kind of giving Virgo energy. So while the song is kind of coming to terms and accepting who you are, like to flip it almost, it's also like leaning on that female energy that you found at that
Hmm.
time. And for whatever reason, to me, that just resonated as like that's kind of like the external version of Virgo energy, like
Yeah.
the Virgin and all of that. It is a very
Very
feminine
feminine, yeah.
sign. So for you to
Which is,
find that kind of tribe is the word I want to say. I don't know
yeah.
the right word, but to find that tribe and like it's almost like calling it Miss Virgo. It's about you, but also about those women that were in that
Yes.
boat with
I
you
love that.
too.
That's so, yeah, I didn't think about it that way, but that does make a lot of sense because, yeah, kind of why I made that post is just because I wanted to come out and just be like, I didn't want to shy away from what it was actually about because although the song can be kind of vague, you can read into it and certain, think it's about certain things or other things. I wanted to be very clear kind of what it's about because I'm not ashamed of like what I've been through. And also, like, I do owe so much of my recovery, and especially that time in my life, to those girls that even though we didn't really keep in touch, like, I think it was kind of like once you went out, like, we all kind of went our separate ways. We all lived in different parts of the country. And some of us added each other on Facebook and just kind of watched from afar. And so I was like, I wanted to at least give a shout out or to those women that I was so inspired by that were also so different from me and how I grew up and just like it's just we were all kind of bonded by just we were struggling and um it was yeah like we were so young 16, 17, 15, kind of that was our group and it was all of us were kind of told that there was something or like internalized that there was something wrong with us, and that can be difficult to accept and but none of us talked about what we were there for. Like we just kind of bonded over we wanted to crochet, we wanted to color, we wanted to be girls, talk about boys and girls and all like it was just it was that was like my favorite thing that I came out of from that place. And it was funny because after I posted that, I got a Facebook message from someone that I was there with who I haven't spoken to in like literally how long, like over 13 years. And she was just like, yeah, I see you. I am watching you from afar and I'm proud of you. And like, this is, amazing. And that was like a really weird feeling. I had no idea that that was going to happen. So yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because I totally didn't put that together. But yeah, it's the female energy and the bonds that we had really was what helped me get through that for sure.
I know for artists, sometimes kind of what you said, you don't always want to put out the theme there because you want people to relate to it as they will for themselves. But I think I love that you did for this song because I'm sure like there's so many people out there that go through the same thing and it can be isolating and that like feel like something's wrong with you. So
Yeah.
yeah, like this song I'm sure has already helped so many people. So great that you wrote that.
Yeah. Anytime I feel like I get a message from somebody that's like, oh, I really resonate, like that just it makes me feel so good. And like there are so many other aspects of what making music has become. And I sometimes get caught up in things, but at the core, like that's kind of the most important thing to me. So I'm happy that people have gotten to hear it.
And like you said too, the fact that that was quite a few years ago, I feel like as a society, hopefully we are changing and like mental health is being talked about a bit more. I mean, even for me and G, like having this podcast, sometimes we come on here and we're just like, it's been rough and we definitely have downs and it's just like, why not talk about it? It's something that everyone goes through. It's kind of crazy that
Exactly.
it's taboo even at a point, but it's just the human experience.
Yeah. 100%. And just knowing that like even after I made that post, people like that I knew in real life had reached out to me and been like, oh, I went through something similar and I had no idea and they had no idea about me. And it's just like it's like a bittersweet thing because it's like I don't want people to have gone through what I've got, or be struggling in that way. But on the other hand, it's nice to know that like we're not alone and that, we've been able to come through or work through it. So yeah, I think it's only a positive thing to be vulnerable like that.
Totally.
That's a good point too. I'm trying to think of how to phrase this question, but I guess for us being Scorpios, like we can be kind of private, and I think Virgo as well. Like you probably like to be a bit more private. So, it sounds like it was maybe a bit difficult or like uncomfortable. You had to be vulnerable for this, and to your point of what you're saying of like your friends and family are who are listening to this, and maybe you haven't talked to them so in depth about it. So it is very like, okay, here's my heart out there.
Yeah, I say like it's the same thing where it's like I feel so much more nervous like performing in front of people that I know than like people I don't necessarily know because I just feel like I like it's just they see me more. I don't know. It's weird. So that's why this was a song that I wasn't really sure I wanted to put out there or be as open about. At the end of the day, I was like, you know what? It's okay. Like, it is what it is. And I'm happy that I did it because it'll help more people. But yeah, it's tough because I generally am like a private person, which is why sometimes I find releasing music kind of difficult, but also like really important for me because it's like pushing me to like overcome that and like face these parts of myself.
Which, speaking of, so you have an album coming out this month, very soon, May 16th for everyone. Very lucky to get to listen to it beforehand. And let me tell you, I am obsessed. I am literally obsessed with this. It is so good, and I'm going to gush about it. But first, we'll talk about it overall.
Yes, and we're gonna dive into the chart.
Well, actually, first
a little bit, not right now, but
I was so excited I forgot to say what was.
I was segueing to it. We'll dive into the chart of it all.
Okay,
perfect. But do you want to do the honors to reveal the album title and tell us a bit about it?
It's called On the Phone with My Mom, and it's 14 tracks, and I made it over a year and a half with my boyfriend in our apartment studio. And I decided to call it On the Phone with My Mom because that was a line in like a song called You Could Break My Heart that was like the second single that I released from the project. And I just thought it really just described kind of how I felt growing up and how I feel now. And it's so interesting when you say like the female connect, like just how connected I feel to my mom and how lucky I am to have such a good relationship with her. And just kind of being that through line through my periods of life where I was younger and I like wanted nothing to do with her. And then now I'm like, I need that, but I always needed that connection. But so interesting. So that's the title. And it's, yeah, it's about girlhood, it's about womanhood, it's about love, loss, and just like acceptance, I guess. So I'm really proud of it. I'm a fully independent artist. And like, it was like, I was like, do I need to make an album? Nobody's like, please make an album. But I made this for me. And I'm really proud that I started it and I finished it. And I didn't do it by myself. My boyfriend, Cade, definitely helped me. My family, my friends, I have so many people that have supported me through it, but I'm just really proud of it. And I'm excited for people to hear it.
You definitely should be because it is
Thank you.
incredibly good.
And look, and I call myself now like a recovering perfectionist because they're, like it's never going to be exactly how in my head I need it to be. But I think it's as close as it probably could be. Like I do think that I went with the flow with this project more than I ever have with anything else because I was like, okay, I want this to be very authentic. And wherever my career goes, like I want this to be like the first kind of like most real, vulnerable, like nobody's telling me what to do. It's everything. The songs are quite long and I just was like, I just want this is like I'm making this for me and to prove that I can and learn from the process. So yeah, it's been a cool experience for sure.
That's definitely where the magic happens, though. I was telling this to a friend recently where it's like when you stop caring about outside opinions and you're strictly doing it for yourself, that's the magic. And
Exactly.
funnily enough, that's when everybody is like, oh, I love this. I relate to this. So really excited for the world to get to hear this. It's an fantastic
Thank
record.
you. Thank you.
Like having worked with many artists, we know that of like the final moment where you're like, should I tweak this mix? Like, there's always that. So I know how hard it is to like, okay, this is the finish line. Like this is definitely it. So yeah,
Yeah.
You're an evolved Virgo. You're getting there.
Yes.
Perfectionist, evolved Virgo.
Yes.
we go.
Yes.
As we talked about, there obviously is a very big theme of like femininity on this album. And funny enough, so this episode we're kind of tagging as our Mother's Day episode. So it's perfect timing that your album is coming out and that, the big mom theme in there. But are there any songs on here? Well, I guess like the intro, right? Like that one is called On the Phone with My Mom. And I also, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I just love the closure of the entire album. Like I feel like you did a great job with that.
Yeah. Yeah, the intro originally started as like the intro just to the second song, which is called, I'll say it's called Any Day Now. And we just decided to separate it because I thought that'd be cool. And also I like the idea of maybe having the first track also be called On the Phone with My Mom. And then I think throughout the album, like that was the benefit of starting it like from the beginning being like all of this is going to be part of one project, so we kind of call back to certain songs and topics like in other songs and kind of wrap it all up. So I'm glad that you caught that for sure.
It sounds like you are on the phone with your mom a good amount. Like is she someone you do call and for advice and whatnot?
Yes, I am one of three girls and my mom, and we are just very close, all of us. And I'm the oldest sister. And I think my mom and I have had for the most part, just like a very good relationship. But as teen girls are sometimes, it can be tumultuous. But I think I've just been very lucky in that I've grown up knowing that my mom has always wanted what was best for me. And she's always been like a safe person that I could ask anything. And I know she's always there for me, which I'm very grateful for. And yeah, like I just really couldn't do any of this without, her support. So she's, definitely someone I would call being like in a crisis, like I what do I do? Now it's more like I think the joke now is I call her and I'm like, I went grocery shopping today. Look at what I found. And she's like, yes, awesome. Tell me about it, like so it's definitely that's more of what our calls are like now. But it's yeah, been like a through line of just being very connected with just the strong women in my life.
I love that.
That's yeah.
I feel like you said, obviously your relationship with both your parents or whoever, can change a lot over the years.
Yeah.
Or like I feel like, as we get older, we mature and you understand like if you did have conflicts in the past, you understand where they're coming from and you're like, okay, I see you. Like, so
Yeah.
everyone's relationships are different, but I think it's really important that we have
Yeah.
strong people in our life that are
Yes.
role models. So it's great.
Yes. Family or not, like I just think being able to have people that are constant and stable, I think is so important. And a lot of people don't have that, and that makes me like really sad. So I feel I feel very grateful to have her in my life, whether or not, we're none of it, nobody's perfect, but she's human too. And I think that's also one of my favorite things about her is that she's just very like able to be like, yeah, I I don't even know what I'm doing. And I'm like, that's when you're an adult, I feel like you view your parents like in such a different way. And you're like, oh, they really don't know what they're doing because nobody does. And that's kind of healing in a way as well. And I think my mom said something that I thought was very emotional a couple weeks ago when I was visiting her. She was like, as a parent, you only get like a small amount of time, like over the course of your life, to actually spend with your kids as kids. Most of their like your relationship is like as adults. And I just thought, yeah, that was very interesting. Just how I think I'm always gonna need my mom, but she's gonna be she's like my friend, my best friend. Like I think it's just interesting.
It's so true, and I've never thought about it that way because, like, I feel like parents will not always, but they kind of look at you and see that child that you were.
Yeah.
But you get what, like 15, 16 years really where you are like a child.
You need, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, wow.
And that must be hard for them too. Like, and then to cherish that time, but then also, yeah, just how your relationship evolves and you become kind of like peers in a way. I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. That transition also, can be tough.
And like you said, I feel like it's the moment too where you're kind of on that same page of you get to the point and you all admit like, yeah, we don't know what we're doing. Like there is no guide for life in any certain way. So it's important, to be authentic about that.
100%, yeah.
Now it's time to dive into this is I'm realizing this is the first. So we've never done a birth chart for an album that is to come. It's always one that we released. So it's like we're predicting a baby's birth chart almost, which is exciting. So Kate will guess because I'm looking at the chart. So I'm seeing things. I'm getting all the tea on what your future album to come is made up of. So the sun sign, I always go with the realistic. I know the date, therefore it makes sign. I'm just gonna spoil it because it's coming May 15th. It's a Taurus.
Okay.
But you can guess the moon sign and you can guess the rising sign.
Okay.
I can go first if you would like. Okay, so on this album, which I love, as I've said, I would say so. The sun sign is kind of like the core of the album, which I think is actually we'll get more into it, but I think makes sense. And then the moon sign is kind of like the thoughts and emotions, you're thinking, and then the rising sign is kind of what it comes across as. So for me, the moon sign, I kind of got Libra because there is, like I said, like a lot of love themes on this album. There's also kind of this like, I want to say like lighter, airy playfulness, which I feel like is very Libra. And then for the rising sign, how it came across to me is actually very Pisces, a water sign. And there's just so much like dream like, which I know, you were talking about
Yeah.
having this like kind of cinematic almost feeling.
Mhm.
And I feel like that does kind of play into the dreamlike aspect of it.
Yeah.
But it was just, yeah, like very flowy. Like I feel like everything
Yeah.
flows. So those are the overall vibes that
Hmm.
I got from this album.
Hmm.
I don't know if that
Yeah.
was kind of in your writing process, how that worked.
No, I see that for sure. I think I don't necessarily, I'm not very well versed in every single sign, but the water signs, like that's definitely what I was hoping, like what I kind of wanted to channel in a
Mm.
way,
Mhm.
more flowy. But then on the other hand, part of me was like, what if it's just like exactly what my chart, like I don't know, what if it actually comes across as like so meticulous because of how wordy it is? Like I don't know. Like there's, and that could be okay too. So I would be curious. I think that's really cool, those two things.
So I will say I kind of agreed with you on the watery aspect, especially when you were
Hmm.
speaking about how you aim to like storytell and all of that. The first
Hmm.
universal download, like I was like Pisces energy all the way. But I'm looking at this, and this is a heavily grounded album.
Okay, so you were right.
So
Ooh.
the sun is Taurus, as we've stated.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Similar to you, not in sign, but in the double feature
Mhm.
of the same sign. The moon and rising are both Capricorn.
Interesting.
Do you know that's crazy because my boyfriend's a Capricorn,
Oh, stop.
Okay. Okay.
who I wrote most of the album with.
So, okay, I'm so glad you mentioned that because, and I'm getting goosebumps right now.
Wow.
We have this theory sometimes of like, while the album release date is one thing, we're always wondering like, when was the album written? Who was it written with?
Mm.
How is that influencing the actual final
Mhm.
product? And then like the birth chart
Yes.
release date.
Yeah, tell us
So
more.
tell us more, please.
Well, so yeah, so he's let me pull up his chart because I have his. He's a Capricorn, is his, I guess, sun, right? And because he's January, and then he's a Pisces moon, Cancer ascendant.
Oh, there's the
Interesting.
water.
Yeah.
So, and we wrote it kind of over a year. We mostly finished, and we wrote the last song in January, which
There you go.
Prove it.
so which I definitely feel does kind of like anchor it.
Yeah,
So that makes a lot of sense.
that's literally
So
insane. Wow.
wow.
I am curious too. What is the Mercury sign is kind of like how
Yes.
it communicates. So
Mhm.
do we have that
So the
as well?
Mercury for this is Taurus.
Oh,
Yes.
there you go.
Cool.
Lots of ground.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Which
That's
is
crazy.
it's so interesting because it's like even thinking about, so you're saying that you kind of felt Libra because of like playfulness, bubbliness almost
Hmm.
like Capricorns do have that side to them too,
Hmm.
where it's
Like
like
hidden. Yeah.
the stereotype is all they care about is work and all that, but they love to have a good time. They love to laugh.
Hmm.
People laugh. So to have that
Hmm.
kind of come across is interesting. Um,
Wow. Yeah.
like in shock by all like the
Yeah, we
That
revelation
is
of when
crazy.
he wrote the
saw
last
it.
song.
Hmm.
And as a Capricorn, it's
Hmm.
all of our theories.
Yeah. And I love it. And I cannot wait to tell him this.
So now we will
Wow.
typically try and match a song to these signs.
Hmm.
For the sign of Taurus,
Hmm.
we're going to say what song represents the Taurus energy on this record.
Okay. Let me look this track list. My youngest sister's a Taurus.
Oh,
Sun. Earth sign, grounded. So of the ones that are released, maybe like You Could Break My Heart seems kind of Taurusy.
Yeah,
It
that is
seems
Taurus.
like
But I
yeah,
love that. I am not.
yeah,
I'm not Taurus. You could break my heart.
yeah. Because I feel like You Could Break My Heart is like I say like it could be a love song, but it's also kind of sad. Like it's all, it's kind of this thing of like, I love you so much you could just stomp like me on the ground and run away. And I'd be like, thank you for even breathing my air. Like, it's a little dramatic, but at its core, I think it's a, very secure, maybe type of like love, maybe being able to love someone and give yourself to someone and you don't know how they're going to necessarily receive it or where you're going to end up, but just being okay with whatever the outcome is. That to me is my version of stable, like for me.
I feel like for me that song really did kind of sum up the album, and what I had written down for myself in my notes was exactly that. Like it felt like this love was very stable and mature,
Mhm.
mostly because you were saying like maybe I'd say thank you. Like you're
Yeah,
looking at it and you're like, okay, sure, that didn't, there was ups and downs, but I'm appreciating what that gave to me and like the growth
yeah. Hmm.
very towards.
For sure.
I love that. Capricorn,
Okay.
with the moon in mind. So speaking to the emotion of
Okay. I don't know why I wanted to say kind of like sleep talking could have been Capricorny. Or no, maybe not, because it's Capricorn kind of like logical.
I'd say they're more of a, yeah, like
yeah,
Yeah,
signs in general are more analytical.
yeah.
right. Analytical. Well,
But there's no wrong or right
Yeah,
right, right, right.
so
it's
go with your
feeling.
gut. It's literally
Yeah, because I do think like, well, sleep talking was, I think we always go back and forth whether you correct me or sleep talking was the first song we wrote. I'm pretty sure my vote, as I'm pretty sure sleep talking was the first song we wrote. We wrote them like very close together. But maybe like in my head, I'm thinking sleep talking, it's like what you actually mean, but like you keep it to yourself. So maybe that's why where the Capricorn's coming from is like this
Mhm.
is like what they actually feel, but like at like it kind of represents maybe how a Capricorn would be. I don't know.
Yeah, actually,
Very, like in their dream, they can't escape like what's actually happening, like in their dreams.
no, that you
Like
said
why
that,
my
and, like
answer is.
literally, it makes
Mhm,
so much sense because I think too, Capricorns can be a private, not as vocal
Mhm.
sign as well, that
mhm.
kind of keep things in, and the one place you can't hide is your dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly. For me, since we're only going off of songs that are out currently, I know it goes against the song title, but I actually would say Miss Virgo has a bit of
Yeah.
Capricorn in there as
Mhm.
well. Also in the tarot, the Capricorn ruled card is the devil, which is about like addictions and kind of your inner demons. And I talk about that for myself as well
Oh.
as my Capricorn moon, but it is kind of that, like what we talked about before of you accepting what you might see as flaws, but it's really
Mhm.
it's not nothing wrong with you. It's like there's reasons why you have those things. And
Yeah.
like just because of your environment or whatever happened to you growing up, and like that's not your fault.
Right. Right. That's interesting. Yeah, I see that for sure.
For the final one,
Yeah.
Capricorn again, but in the ascendant rising placement, how it presents itself. So thinking more so like the stereotypical things of Capricorn, of like the hard work, the
Yeah.
rented, making sure everyone's good kind of energy.
Ooh. Maybe. Feel like yeah, these probably might go with some unreleased ones for sure. Um, but of the ones that are out, I mean maybe like the other shoe because I'm like calling someone out so
Ooh, yeah.
drastically, you know?
Yeah. That's Capricorn energy too.
Yeah,
Do
for
not,
sure.
They're very like, yeah, like we'll call you out on your
yeah,
shit kind of.
they're not afraid to read you for filth. Yep.
I actually, yeah,
So
that one. And like in little ways, I also would say the wolf
yeah.
with like I don't want to be afraid of you. Because I feel like it's like almost the opposite, but I think that Capricorns are very guarded, or like they can be very guarded. Again, speaking from my Capricorn moon. Um, so it's almost like you like exactly what that is. Like I don't want to be afraid of you, and it's kind of how do I break down that wall?
Mhm.
Like that's kind of what that song means.
Yeah,
I can see that too.
for sure.
It's hard.
Cool.
It's hard. It's hard to trust and be vulnerable sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, we did it.
That
Amazing.
that is a chart.
Yeah.
Insane how like on point it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even
No, I like
ground energy.
Yeah. Heavily grounded.
yes.
Cannot wait for the world to hear
Um,
this record. Is there any final words you would like to have people know or anything they should look forward to on this album?
I just, I mean, I would like my dream is that people listen from start to finish. I know, in this day and age, sometimes that's a big ask, but I mean, I do think it goes through some sort of evolution. Either way, I do think, it's for if you feel, a little different. If you want to just feel that everything's going to be okay, like I ultimately like at the core of like what my messaging is as an artist is like I struggle with my mental health and that's okay, and I'm talking about it and I'm not ashamed of it. And I think if anybody can relate to anything in these songs, just know they're not alone. And yeah.
I will say we both are very much so album girlies, so
Yes.
we
I
appreciate.
appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
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 And like you said too, like I definitely got those vibes having listened through the whole album of like this is a storytelling album, as we were talked about. I like there's so many lines that I wrote down. Just your way with words is just I love
Thank
it so
you.
much, and the phrasing, of everything. So I will say I
Yeah.
have to. It was actually a little like hard for me to get through the whole album because I was so stuck. Like some of that ones, I'm just like, this is my song. This is like
Oh,
album of the summer.
I'm so curious like to know which ones you,
Okay,
and
so
you can say the track names if they have like I
okay,
am very
I,
curious.
I have I got to I got to.
Yeah.
We did already kind of talk about one before, which is the second track, Any Day Now.
Yeah.
What a groovy jam! But
Thank you.
what I really relate to, I believe the lyrics are trying hard, keeping chill, but I'm burning out. That is my life. Is that
Period.
not me? Like
Yeah.
that is so me. I related to that so freaking hard because life can be tough.
Yeah.
Tough. And I feel like, all of us like having gone through the pandemic in the past couple of
Hmm.
years, and then just like all of the world events that keep coming, it's exactly that.
Yeah.
I'm trying hard. Okay, I'm trying to keep chill, but like honestly, we were talking about like we had some delays and whatnot with our podcast because we were burnt out. Like
Yeah.
it is hard out there. It is so
Hmm.
so I do love that.
Yeah.
But okay, so these standout track for me, 100%. Like, I mean, I thought literally like all these songs are incredible, no skips. I'm going to be listening to this like
Thank
literally
you.
over.
Thank you.
But I believe it's track 9, which is Fountain of Youth slash Married
Ooh.
Life. My God,
I'm actually so glad
that
because I was worried about that one for some reason.
girl, I got literal chills listening to it. I actually teared
So
up
good.
to it. I'm not gonna lie. You got me to tear up.
Mhm.
Just like the emotion. Like it's so funny. I know we were talking about, kind of when it's hard to be vulnerable or whatnot, but like there's just an emotion that hits as the undercurrent of this song and like the evolution of the song.
Mhm.
I just it is, I think, one of the longer ones probably.
Yeah, it could be two songs probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me a little more about that song because I
Yes. Well, so I believe with that one, so we started out with the first kind of what we would call Fountain of Youth. And I I don't know, I think at that time I was going through, feeling like I'm not where people think I should be in my life, not even career wise, but just like as a woman, like all my friends are getting married. So I think I have this dream and that's where that thing is like, I want to be somebody like I'm not ready to like be, this flesh to get like full person that like people think I should be at my ripe age of 28 years old. So I think I was channeling that. I think in like the chorus, like I've never stood still or been in the moment, like that kind of like to me that's how I feel. Like I feel like I'm always like running out of time and I've never actually been able to be present sometimes and just experience life. So so that's why we wanted to channel that. And then by the end of the song, Cade was messing around and was like with like an outro, and it was like kind of like a 2-minute long outro. And we were like, he was like sampling vocals from my past EP to like create like a little thing. And then we just off the cuff we're just like, let's like just make this a jam, like whatever.
yeah.
Like that's kind of in my head, that's what I was thinking. I was like, there's really actually nothing I can do, like like that's this is how the world is, and I think all we can do is just be like, whatever, like I'm just gonna keep going, keep vibing, like there's no like dance away
Hmm.
the pain. I don't know. So that's kind of where that came from. And then we were like, should we make it separate? Like, should we, what should we do? And I'm like, let's just keep it in
I
one
love
thing.
it.
Like, I think it's a vibe. If someone can get through the whole thing. So I'm really glad that you like that one because I was like, I feel like some people are going to listen to this and be like, what is going on? Like, there's no reason for it to be like this. But but that, it's like, again, this is just me and my boyfriend. We're just like, that's kind of cool. Let's keep it that way. Like, I love it. I think it's fun. So I'm really glad.
Well, that's also a testament to what, you were talking about before, like how this album, you wrote it for yourself, but like trusting your
Hmm.
instincts in that because it 100% came across to me. And I mean, you know me well, like
Hmm.
it makes sense why I relate to this song because that is literally my life as well. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much going on.
It's
And,
tough out here.
when you're in a transitional period and like not feeling like you're where you know that there's like so much coming. It's kind of that like, I don't want to say void. That's not the
Yeah.
negative word that I want to use, but
Right.
like you know where you're going, but you don't know exactly what that destination is yet, kind of
Right.
thing. So heavy relate
Exactly.
on that. And then I was gonna say as well, the closer,
Hmm.
Good Night.
Hmm.
That one also gave me chills,
Oh, thank
for
you.
sure. And I believe this is the right lyric. I wrote down, and I feel frozen again. Is this the start or the end? Like that
Right.
one, that is what gave me chills. I was like, oh, I love
Yeah.
that.
Thank you. That song is like one of my current favorites because I think I've lived with these songs for a really long time. But this one, we wrote like at the beginning of this year, and that was like we'd probably finished most of the songs by the summer last year and had just been going through the mixing process and just finishing everything. And we knew that we wanted to have like one more song, but we just kind of wanted to wait and just see like if we could write something that was kind of going to be a little bit more recent and like kind of sum everything up once we had sat with it for a while.
Mhm.
And it's one of my favorite productions from Cade. Like it's like piano based, which is like his main instrument. And for me, and I wanted to, yeah, basically just kind of sum up everything. And it's this, yeah, like acceptance. I didn't want it to be overly like positive, but also I didn't want it to be too sad. Like I just want it to be very real and just like where I am right now. And kind of like reflecting, I guess, on the album.
That's
Love
what I
that.
wrote down actually. Like I love the closure. Like I think it's the perfect. Well, actually, I did want to ask too, like about the sequencing of the
Mm-hmm.
album, like how you
Mm-hmm.
got into that. Because again, like it does feel like a story throughout.
Yeah.
Was that like very intentional for you?
Yeah, like we wanted it to feel like if someone were to sit and listen to this, like I didn't want it to be too like all over the place. I wanted there to be a good combination of, slower stuff, high energy. I knew I wanted it to end kind of on a reflective note, which is why we waited for that song. Um, and yeah, that was definitely what we're thinking. I think we kind of sat and we're just like, how are we going to do this? But we knew that Any Day Now was going to be the first like actual track, track like that to me. I was like, that's the opener. Like that's how ultimately, I want people to be like, okay, yeah, we're good. This
Mhm.
is what happening. But it's actually not as easy. Like there were so many other ways I think it could be combined, but I wanted, yeah, this just like felt right.
Yeah. No, I think you got it. Like I really did love the like how each song flows in and out of each other and like
Hmm.
it just really feels, especially with the end song, Good Night, like
Hmm.
I don't know. It's like nice wrapped up and
Yeah.
little bow. Like
Yeah.
I love the closure. So
Yes.
yeah, not gonna spoil anything, but they're out there. Which
But
actually,
yeah.
as you said, so the album is coming
Yeah.
up very soon.
Hmm.
It's Taurus season. I mean, we're in,
Hmm.
yeah, we are
Yeah.
in Taurus season.
Yeah.
It will still be Taurus season. Just that like my album of the summer, I will be listening to it over and over.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
I don't know if you can talk about it or not. Like, are you gonna go on tour?
Um, yes, sorry, my mom's texting me.
Ironic.
Mom. So literally there's nothing I want more than to go on tour. I think right now I'm gonna do probably one final show in New York, hopefully. I am actually moving.
No
This
way.
is a soft launch. I will have probably announced this by the time I'm gonna be moving to LA, which is kind of crazy. I know.
All the
I
good
know.
Wait, so are you
I know.
going back and then they're going back?
I have so many feelings about this. But it's just there are a lot of reasons, but I'm always in New York. Like I think this is where I'm going to be for most of my life, but I'm going to be probably hoping to do one more show here like before I leave, and then I really like this show, like this album specifically, like we had access to a lot of instruments for this, and I like want like I want a sax player. Like I want all these people. So we're getting that together, and I would love to do like LA, New York, Toronto, which is where I'm from originally, and hopefully just do as much as I can. So I would definitely be updating on that for sure.
Awesome.
And if I can't do, I will do it. I'll do it with just a piano. Like I don't care. But we're trying to do it all.
It'll happen. I can see
Yes.
it already.
Yes.
Be at that
Yes.
show whenever it happens.
Yes. Yes.
Also, I love that you're from Canada. I love Canada so much.
I do love Canada too. Toronto's amazing.
It's
Yes.
kind of like I feel like New York in ways, you know.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's a nice
100%.
New York.
Yeah, it's a little more spread out than New York, but it's very similar, like big city kind of feel. And which is why like I was like, I want to move to New York because it felt like close enough to home, but far enough that like I could be independent. So
Yeah.
Always love New York. Like New York is to me like home, wherever I am.
Actually, yeah, I'm funny. I heart New York. Here we go.
Yeah.
On that.
Thank you so
Perfect.
much for your time. This has been so good.
Thank you probably
So
for our
exciting.
series.
Yeah.
Astrology and albums.
This has been so eye-opening, honestly, for me too. Like I think I'm gonna think about it so differently now, and it makes just so much more sense, actually. And I cannot wait to tell my boyfriend who I'm like, you don't understand, like the star, like I'm like, it makes sense. And it does. And he's like, no, like I don't know. I'm like, no, there's no way he can
Now you have
refute any of this.
I love
I
that.
love it.
So yeah, for back to us on his thoughts and feelings about this. But yeah, thank you,
will.
especially for being so open and vulnerable with
Mhm.
us. It's just an incredible album. So
Thank you so much.
We want to say thank you again so much to Maddie for spending some time with us today to talk about her upcoming album, On the Phone with My Mom, out May 16th.
we yet again proved some hypotheses about the astrology and how albums are written, how they come across. So I'd say that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next one.
Thanks so much for listening to the Cosmic Cadence podcast. If you like what you heard, please take the time to subscribe and like, rate, and review wherever you listen. It really helps us out.
You can also find us on socials at Cosmic Cadence Pod on all platforms. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you next time.